Welcome to the Leadership Lab. Let us talk about one of the most difficult jobs of any industry, and that is teaching. Today, we have with us someone who has had more than 27 years of teaching experience and is one of the most loved professors. Dr. Alka Mukne is the head of Department of Pharmacognosy and Phytochemistry at Bombay College of Pharmacy. She is also associated with a lot of professional bodies like the Indian Pharmaceutical Association, the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, the Pharmacy Council of India, the Society for Antipharmacology, and the Federation of Asian Pharmaceutical Association. She has also been a speaker at a lot of events across the globe organized by the Indian Pharmaceutical Association, the International Pharmaceutical Students Federation, the Indian Pharmaceutical Congress, and the Society for Antipharmacology. She is also the editor of the very famous magazine called Pharma Times. She was also awarded for her outstanding performance in the year 2006 by the Indian Pharmaceutical Association, a great guide and a great mentor for a lot of students across the globe. Let us welcome Dr. Alka Mukne at the Leadership Lab. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am, at the Leadership Lab. It's going to be a pleasure to host you right now. And as I have said before also, it's been a long time that we have been approaching you, and finally we've got an opportunity to connect with you and maybe get our students more enlightened with your experience, knowledge in the industry. Thank you so much, ma'am.
So, Pranav, I would like to extend my most sincere apologies. You have been approaching for so long, but somehow, as I said last time, God willing, when He wills, then it happens. So, somehow it was not working out. I have seen you growing from a student to a very successful entrepreneur. Now I have seen Pharmacad grow from where it started to where it is today. The sort of value addition that Pharmacad is able to bring out with students, the amount of help and support it is able to extend. So it is a matter of pride. I feel personally at a personal level very, very proud that I'm very apologetic that it has been so long, but better late than never. So finally we are here, and thank you for having me here. And I hope that this interaction is going to be useful and fruitful for our students. Let's hope that we are able to put across what is going to be requirements for the future. Action here would be able to tell them something about where the industry is going, how they should be trained, and what sort of skill sets they should develop, maybe through academies like yours or through self-learning or whatever which way they can do, so that they become more industry ready. So maybe some guidance if we can give through this interaction. I hope it is useful to students from that perspective.
Certainly. So, ma'am, I'll start with my first question.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, what is your current job profile and what exactly are your roles and responsibilities right now?
Okay. Now, currently, I head the Pharmacognosy and Phytochemistry department of Bombay College of Pharmacy. That is one of the premier institutes that offers pharmacy education in the country. Now, Bombay College of Pharmacy is the only college that is managed by a professional association. The Indian Pharmaceutical Association Maharashtra State Branch manages it, takes care of the day-to-day functioning. The college was set up by Indian Pharmaceutical Association. So that's the USP of Bombay College of Pharmacy. And that is why, as a faculty member here and as head of the Department of Pharmacognosy Phytochemistry Department at Bombay College of Pharmacy, we have this unique opportunity where, if I may say so, literally the who's who of industry is part of our management, is part of our governing body, is part of our alumni. Our alumni we are a 63-year-old institute, so our alumni are spread across all over the globe, doing so well. So literally the who's who of the pharma industry across various sectors are interacting with the faculty and students on a very regular basis. So that is something, when their experience, their expertise rubs off on the BCP members, and that is what I feel is the USP for Bombay College of Pharmacy. It's a matter of pride that I am a faculty member here at Bombay College of Pharmacy. I have been a student here, my B Pharm, M Pharm, PhD, everything from here, so it's more like home, more home than my home. I've spent more number of years here. And as the head of the department, not just taking care of the department in terms of maybe managing the lectures and practicals with respect to pharmacognosy, phytochemistry for undergraduate, postgraduate, and PhD. But also maybe in terms of allocation of resources. So be it HR, so the faculty and non-teaching staff, how they are going to be deployed. Then the most important part, the finances. So it is not just deployment of finances, how we raise them, how we manage them, how we budget them, and how we deploy them. So that is what is part of my responsibilities. How we get grants from industry, how we get fundings from various government funding agencies for the research that we take up, how we try and do some sort of research consultancy with industry, give that sort of intellectual, I would say, support to what industry is doing is what, as head of the department, are some of my responsibilities. And one part of my job which I absolutely love is the medicinal plant garden, that because I belong to the Pharmacognosy Phytochemistry department, that we are responsible for. So despite being in the middle, right in the middle of a bustling metro like Mumbai, I can say with a lot of pride that we have, I think, over 50 medicinal plants in our medicinal plant garden. And here I would like to support, I would like to acknowledge the support extended by our management, the vision that they have in terms of maintaining and helping and supporting such an activity. Right. So that's also something that, as the HOD of Prognosy Department, Pharmacognosy and Phytochemistry Department, it forms part of my responsibilities. The ultimate aim of any teaching institute is well-being of the student, ensuring that students are well equipped, they come out in the best possible manner, they are industry ready, employable, and to be able to play some sort of role, no matter how small, in developing students' personality is, at the end of the day, I would say, the biggest satisfaction that any faculty member from anywhere can get. I'm sure you will understand that, being a part of the teaching fraternity. That's our biggest reward, I would say, at the end of the day. So this is, I think, overall what's the sort of responsibilities that I handle at Bombay College of Pharmacy.
Great. And as you very rightly said, the happiness part as a teacher comes when your students grow. So it's like more like the success of the student does not depend on the success of the teacher, but the success of the teacher depends upon the success of the student.
It is, I'll tell you, there is so much of ourselves that we invest in our students, emotionally, intellectually, that when you see them achieve something, you feel it is a part of you, which is, it's like your biological children, you know, nothing less.
Absolutely.
It's a part of you that goes out and achieves something for you. That's how we feel about it.
Absolutely. Very true, ma'am. Ma'am, what is the current scenario with respect to pharmacognosy in the industry as a student, also as an academician?
Now, if I have to be very honest, students view research in pharmacognosy and phytochemistry with a lot of skepticism. And their skepticism stems from the fact that there is this myth, there's this that if you are doing masters or your PhD from this subject, jobs are an issue. Now, looking at how our students at Bombay College of Pharmacy who have majored from pharmacognosy phytochemistry, be it MPharm, be it PhD, I would say that is not the case. Now, it completely depends. Industry is not going to hire you because you have graduated or post-graduated from a certain discipline. Industry is going to hire you if you bring to the table what they want. So, and as part of research, if your research problem is going to be something that is attuned to industry needs, that is also equipping you with the sort of skill sets that industry needs, then I don't see why employment should be an issue. So the various multiple segments that you asked in your question, the first part, the skepticism with which students view pharmacognosy phytochemistry, I think that's something that they should not be doing, because industry is going to hire you if they think that you are worthy of it, irrespective of what your subject is in which you have majored, in which you have done your master's or your PhD. with respect to, if you are looking at students who are looking at a career in terms of as academicians or as academic researchers, let me tell you that today, now that we are in the midst of this corona pandemic, you would see that the pharmaceutical industry, the biotech industry today is currently still, pardon me for saying that, but scrambling for therapeutic and prophylactic options, building something, coming out with something. So one day you have a story where hydroxychloroquine is the next big thing, then you have dexamethasone, then WHO goes and bans hydroxychloroquine because of serious side effects, then they go ahead and uh, resume the trials. So today is the age of viral infections. We are in the midst of corona pandemic right now, but if you look at the last few years, it was Ebola, it was H1N1, it was dengue. It has been dengue every single year, not leptospirosis, but chikungunya. All of these are viral infections. The issue or the challenge with viral infections is, with respect to pharmaceuticals, there aren't very many antivirals which are safe and effective. So your best bet here is how you strengthen your own immune system, and that is where herbs of natural origin become very, very important. Even now, if you are aware that last month CSIR, Central Council of Indian Research, Industrial Research, initiated these trials along with ICMR, where they were trying to, huge trials there, they are across multicentric trials where they're going to check it across 50 lakh patients, where these high-risk contacts, be it people from these red zones and the medicos, the police officials, the cleaning guys, the sanitation workers, the high-risk contacts from these red zones are going to be the subjects of part of this trial. And what they have done is they have taken 4 herbs that are listed in Ayurvedic texts and a polyherbal Ayurvedic formulation. So the most common herbs, which I'm sure all of us are familiar with, even if we are not pharmacy students, like ashwagandha, I'm sure all of us have heard, yashtimadhu or licorice, pipli, long pepper, piper longum, and guduchi or giloy or Tinospora pardifolia, and a polyherbal formulation, Ayush 64. Now these trials, what they're going to do is administer these to these high-risk contacts and then study them over a period of 2 to 3 months, and then see whether these traditional systems of medicines or these herbs that are listed in our traditional texts, whether they have been effective in preventing development of serious infection in these high-risk contacts is what we are going to study. And I think the findings are going to come out by September, October, but some initial results which were there, I recently read something in India Today which came just a couple of days back, that the initial findings are very, very promising. So people who are looking at research in this area, today with this pandemic and with the government laying so much of thrust, there are funds available for research. Industry is looking at it. I don't know how many of you are aware, but Sun Pharma initiated these trials for phytopharmaceutical AQCH. They have codified it as AQCH. It's the first phytopharmaceutical for which phase 2 clinical trials have been initiated in the month of June, just a few days back. And the story behind that is, I think somewhere in 2005-2006, they studied this. They started trials on this AQCH phytopharmaceutical for dengue. At that point of time, dengue was a thing. Every year you had during monsoons, immediately after monsoons, dengue was a big thing. It is still a big thing. And they found, when they did the initial safety, toxicity, and phase 1 studies, they found that in addition to being effective against dengue, this AQCH was also demonstrated some sort of general antiviral properties. Now, after this corona pandemic breakout, they decided to test this against SARS-CoV corona virus also. And this they did in collaboration with the Italian-based ICGEB, that is the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotech. And they found that very, very good anti-COVID-19. Sun Pharma applied to DCGI and they got the permission for conducting phase 2 trials of AQCH across 12 centers using 210 patients. Patients would be given this AQCH, and then the severity of the infection or how they progressed would be evaluated. This again, the findings are expected to come out in October. Just for your information, this AQCH, which they have codified, is actually extract of Poculus hirsutus. This is a herb that is listed in Ayurveda for all sorts of things, including fever and bile and maybe urine infections. This is also a herb that is used by a lot of tribal people from Maharashtra, Gujarat, Jharkhand, and Chhattisgarh, and they have taken it up. So, industry has been diffident for some reason with going with herbals, and so students have been um not so keen on coming here. But things are changing now. This is the time when this is going to be sort of the turning point, if I may say so. And it is up to us how well we are able to use this opportunity to make a difference. Ultimately, we are here to improve the health. So how well we are able to do this is the time. We are all waiting for all these findings of clinical trials. So bottom line, uh, pharmacognosy phytochemistry is where you have this gold mine of drugs coming in. Students, whether you're looking at a career in industry or as academicians, this is a subject which is the subject of future.
All right.
That's all that I would say.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this. Ma'am, what made you decide select academia as your career?
Let me be very honest. I was never initially interested in being a teacher because I thought it's the most boring and repetitive job. You teach the same old thing year after year, year after year. So that was when I was in my bachelor's. When I was doing my M.Pharm, that is in, I completed my B.Pharm in 91 and M.Pharm in 93. So when I was doing my M.Pharm at Bombay College of Pharmacy, at that time there were only three colleges in pharmacy colleges in Mumbai University. UDCT, it was UDCT then, now ICT, BCP and KMK. And then SNDT was there, but that was a separate university. So as master's students, we were also working as experts in the lab. And as I was working as an expert during my second year M.Pharm, there were a lot of instructions and small bits of things that I handled in the lab. Couple of lectures also. One of the teachers, when she was not well, she was going to be on leave, and she asked me to take, and she gave me her notes. Okay, Damle madam, I can tell. She's no more now, but Professor A.V. Damle, and she gave me her notes also, and she said, I'm giving you notes, but I'm not well, and if you can take, and I was a bit apprehensive, and the stage fright and how to face a class of 60 and all of that, and the first lecture was so, but the 2-3 lectures that I took and the instructions that I took for those practicals, that's when I realized that I really like doing it. And I realized one more thing, that it is not just maybe your syllabus is the same, but how you treat it, it changes with who you are talking to, who you are teaching the subject to. It changes with your students, and every year when your students change, the way you deliver the content also changes. So that is when I decided that, not decided, I thought that, oh, this is an option that I should not rule out. And that's how I went into teaching. And then when I completed my master's, that was the year when these private colleges first started. So Saraswati Vidya Bhavan's College of Pharmacy was that time in Bhandup. And I just completed my master's, and there were openings, and I joined there, and I absolutely loved teaching. I still love teaching. It's so many years, but look forward to entering the class every single time. Though now physically entering the class is not happening, but yes.
Absolutely, ma'am. I can just say that from whatever I have experienced from many of your students, that how they enjoy Dr. Mukne's lecture. And as I have told you before also, we have had one encounter when you had visited our college for
Yeah.
Viva, the experiment. I cannot forget that. And that was very scary, ma'am, at that point in time.
But you're giving me contradictory things. You're saying students say enjoy lectures, and then you're saying it was scary.
The Bombay College of Pharmacy students who have studied under you, they have had a great time. But a student for whom it was an external viva, it was something very challenging. But I still remember how you just said it. I'm glad you finally answered something. So I'm, I'm never going to forget that. So it's always going to remain. It was a question related to some glycosides, and I remember I was able to just answer one question after 5 continuous questions that were not answered, and then lastly I answered something, and
But learn to just to tell you, the questions that I ask in Viva are always never direct. I try to keep them very indirect and application based. The idea is not to students have to answer the questions. The idea is to understand what is the thought process,
right, right.
and that is what I always have been trying to gauge, not to get some answers out. So even if you've not answered anything, your thought process tells a lot, and that is what at least I try to gauge. So
To be very honest, after that particular face-off during the Viva, I almost kind of avoided an eye-to-eye contact with you whenever I visited Bombay College of Pharmacy for IPA activities. I was like, at least for 6 months, I do not think I deserve to show my face to Dr.
and I think I should, before we start Viva, tell students that the questions that I ask are not expected to be answered. But definitely, it tells me how you are going to think, and that is all that I want, nothing else.
I think that
Should come before the Viva starts.
yeah, that disclaimer would help actually, ma'am. A lot of students.
Yes, I think that should be done.
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, apart from academia, you are also into several professional activities. If you could tell us a little more about those activities.
Now, being at Bombay College of Pharmacy, as I said in the beginning, Bombay College of Pharmacy is managed, run, instituted by Indian Pharmaceutical Association. IPA Maharashtra State Branch is managing it. So that gave me that unique opportunity, which not many people get, of getting involved in the activities of IPA. I started, I think, somewhere in 2005 maybe, where initially it was taking care of the IPA website, the then IPA website. And then maybe somewhere in 2007, started work on Pharma Times. That time I was the assistant editor. Mr. Kaushik Desai was the editor that time, and Mr. Subodh Priyankar was the president of IPA then. And I would say I have been lucky to get mentors like these, because they are people who have who come with the sort of experience that as an academician I don't think I would have access to that sort of experience which my colleagues at IPA come with, my mentors at IPA come with. So and now I am, since 2010 I am managing Pharma Times as its honorary editor, and it's a job again like teaching. I absolutely love it's something. After teaching, if there is something which gives me immense satisfaction, it is Pharma Times, managing Pharma Times. It's a win-win thing, because what I also try to do is, many of our students from Bombay College of Pharmacy who show the aptitude for writing and editing, they are roped in as editorial assistants of Pharma Times. So in that respect, it is also uh, soft skill. It helps in soft skill development of these students, personality, all-round growth of these students. I would say that getting involved in professional activities of such professional associations, the good progressive ones, now there are many associations springing up everywhere. IPA is like almost 80, 78 years old. So the ones that are there really for contributing to the profession, if you are able to get involved there, if you are able to do, it's a very good learning exercise. It's a very good learning experience, because you meet people across, if I may use the term, cross functionalities. Okay, so I meet people from the regulatory, I meet people from the industry, I meet people from community pharmacy, from hospital pharmacy, academicians. Aligning your thought process with how they think, coming to decision making which is going to look at interests of each of these subgroups, is something that you learn, which I think when you're working in your own small sphere doesn't happen. So with students also, I see students very active these days in Students Forum, and Pharmacad also is doing a lot of has also a lot of initiatives for professional growth and development of students. It's really required, because technical knowledge all of us have. Um, it is there at the click of the mouse. It is there everywhere. But team spirit, team building, leadership, maybe communication, how you take a group along with you is something that you learn when you are uh, moving beyond the classroom. And so, this is my advice to not just students, even young faculty members, whoever, people from industry also, do get involved in whatever your area of interest is. You have, like, I'm also the coordinator of the Society for Ethnopharmacology Mumbai chapter. So that is based on, that is focused on herbal and traditional medicines. The sort of exposure and the sort of interactions that you are able to have is something that adds value to your own work also. No doubt that it takes up a lot of your time. It is like holding two, three jobs simultaneously, but the you are paid back in kind. So the learning is tremendous. The network that you build is tremendous, and believe me, today it is your people skills, your network, people you can fall back on is what is going to see you ahead. So, professionally, getting aligned with societies and associations that are interested in contributing to a cause is something that all of us should get involved in, even if it is going to take a lot of our times.
Absolutely. Right, Ruma. So as you very rightly said, overall development is the key, rather than just focusing on certain things. I remember talking to you once regarding one of our activities, and that time you had told me that there are a lot of students who get great ranks in GPAT, but their basic concepts are not so clear when it comes to application. And even sometimes if their concepts are clear, their communication skills are not so great. So
If I may say here, writing skills. I unfortunately, I'm a stickler for grammar. I'm a stickler for well-written things, and unfortunately, if I have to give a percentage, um, 4, 5, max 7, 8% is where I find students where I think their writing skills are good and can be honed into something better.
right.
Especially when you're coming in for research, your writing skills have to be good. You have to write publications, you have to write papers, you have to write projects for funding. Not just for academicians. Even when you go to industry, you have to submit project reports. You have to put up proposals. So if your communication skills are not going to be good, it is not that you have to use flowery language, but use correct, grammatically correct language and be coherent in your thoughts. You should be able to put your thoughts out in a very coherent manner, which makes it very easy for the other person to understand. That is what should be the idea. So, somewhere, if you're clear in your mind, you'll be able to put out your thoughts in a more clear manner. That's a requirement. It's seriously lacking, I feel.
Certainly, yes, that has been my observation as well, which is very true. And what are the growth prospects available for the students in the industry right now? And another, if a student or if somebody wishes to get into academia, what are the expectations from the organization? Oh,
Let me come to the industry part first.
sure.
If you look at today, whatever you want is there on the net, right? So, not that then your knowledge is not required. Your knowledge is also a certain decent level of knowledge base is required. But what was there till maybe a decade back, where your knowledge, a good knowledge, was more than enough, is not going to suffice. How you think, how you approach a problem becomes more important. So, there's something called critical thinking. How you are able to analyze a situation, your problem solving abilities, that becomes important. Systems thinking becomes important. Now, if I have to just very simply say what a systems thinking is, there's an entire whole system with various subsystems. So, how those individual subsystems correlate to the entire big system, how they work each other, understanding that is systems thinking. So, students need to develop critical thinking, systems thinking, analytical thinking, problem solving abilities. Industry is looking at those things. Information is available on the net. Industry is looking for students who are well turned out. By well turned out, I mean well turned out in terms of good soft skills, good communication skills, writing skills, presentation skills. All of these are important. So, somewhere, uh, we try to do at Bombay College of Pharmacy, I try to do during my sessions, I try to give students some topics of general pharma interest. so that they read, they are also stay abreast with what is happening in the pharma industry, and then ask them to make presentations. So somewhere apart from the core subject, this is in addition to the core subject. So their knowledge about the industry improves. They come to know what is happening, and how you are able to put all of that into one coherent presentation also is an art which needs to be learned, which needs to be practiced. This is about requirement today. Industry, like the pharma industry, like everything else, is all set to change. Now, we have seen in this during this pandemic also, everything going digital. So there is this industry 4.0. Similarly, the pharma industry 4.0, where everything is going to be digital. When I talk to some of my colleagues from industry, they are saying the future is where students come with maybe some background of IoT, some background of what point of care devices are. Just to give you an example, in a few years' time, we are going to have, they are already there in a very advanced stage of development, those insulin pumps, which are like wearables where you wear them on the stomach. The diabetic patient would wear it like a belt on the stomach. And then this would continuously measure the blood glucose and automatically at a controlled rate, depending on the blood glucose, infuse insulin into the system. So it is talking of synergy between pharmaceuticals and digitization. If you are aware, just last week or within this week, US FDA has approved the first video game, prescription video game. It is for ADHD, attention deficit hypersensitivity disorder, hyperactivity disorder. So it is that they are expected to play that video game every day for some number of hours, every day for a period of say 4 weeks or 5 weeks, where they have been these trials have demonstrated a marked improvement in ADHD. They are not saying that this prescription video game is to replace the ADHD medicines, but to be used along with the ADHD medicines. So things are changing. Pharma is going to change in a big way in the next 5 to 10 years. The big pharma will not be Pfizer and maybe Abbott and these companies. It is going to be Amazon and Google and Apple and all of these. So even Pharmacy Council of India that governs our syllabus is looking at introducing AI as an elective, at least as an elective, in the next syllabus revision. Great. So whether it comes in the syllabus or not is another thing. Students today need to gear up and see how they are going to equip themselves with some basic knowledge in what AI can do, what IoT can do, what digitization can do, because that is where the industry is going to move ahead. This pandemic has taught us one thing. When there was this lockdown, people could not go to factories. Pharma factories were supposed to be working, but workers were not available. Absolutely. Pharma industry has been very resistant to adopting digitization, but this pandemic has forced them to move into digitization. They realized that AI has to be embraced, and next 5-10 years, if our students are not going to equip themselves with these skill sets, they will. The current jobs that you see today are going to be redundant, are not going to be there 5 years down the line. Students that we are churning out today with the current skill sets may not have jobs. So, time that we do, maybe like Pharmacad can consider introducing such short courses on IoTs and AI and digitization in pharma industry. See how you can equip the students, because this is something that that is of the future, not the current, the future requirement. Certainly. To prepare for the future, you're going to be, if you would be able to survive only if you are able to see what the future is and change and adapt yourself accordingly. So that is something that we need to do. In terms of research, I don't know, did I answer that? Yes. Research is more in line with what industry wants. So if I talk about pharmacognosy and phytochemistry, if you're just going to extract and fractionate and leave it at that and do some bioactivity guided fractionation, that's not going to work. Your studies need to be more of proof of concept, mechanistic based studies. There is this advances in omics, the genomics and proteomics, and you have so much happening in bioinformatics and metabolomics and all of these. How well you are able to adapt this to your research is going to define how well your students get hired.
Right.
So I can say with a lot of pride and satisfaction that pharmacognosy students in Pharm and PhD from Bombay College of Pharmacy are not facing any issues with respect to getting recruited. That should be the case from every single college from this subject.
Absolutely. Very true, ma'am. Ma'am, you have been into teaching since more than 25 years, I think now, and it must have been a great journey. Could you tell us what principles like कि ये तो मैं कुछ भी करके follow करना ही है? So if you could just tell us something about that.
Not restrict this to someone who has to teach, but this is my life mantra, if I can say so. Uh, there is no substitute to hard work. There is absolutely no substitute to hard work. Uh, um, you can compensate for lack of any of those skills if you are willing to work hard. And if you're willing to work hard, getting those skills is just a matter of time. So there is no substitute to hard work is what I tell my students time and again. And another thing which I look at when I am trying to hire students for my funded projects is a nice blend of aptitude and attitude. Uh, Aptitude, your inclination, your basic leanings. Attitude, more important, I would say. Having the right attitude towards learning, I think, is the most important thing. So no substitute to hard work and always keeping the right attitude. You cannot say that I am the doctorate in pharmaceutical sciences and I am done with. No, every single day you learn. It's a lifelong learning thing, and only then you can progress. Otherwise, you're going to stagnate. Whatever the field you are in, whether it is teaching, whether it is industry, whether you are just managing a home, whatever you're doing. So my life mantra, and this comes from 50 years of living on this planet Earth.
Very true, ma'am. As you very rightly said, no substitute for hard work.
Yes.
Always there. Ma'am, any books that you would like to recommend to our students for reading? As you said, attitude is more important.
Yes.
If you would like to suggest some books that can help them build up their attitude.
I used to be a voracious reader. Absolutely love reading, but now reading has become such a luxury in the sense reading beyond reading my research papers also is something that I don't find time. Honestly, beyond that, reading the newspaper also is like if I get that, it's a luxury. But one of my all-time favorites, if I can say in terms of books, is Who Moved My Cheese. Now I don't remember the author. I think it was Johnson. Don't remember. But cheese is like the metaphor of everything that you want in life. Okay, so who moved my cheese? Life changes, and life changes very abruptly in a manner which often we cannot predict, we are not prepared for. How you are able to cope with that change, how you are able to adapt to that change, how you are able to take those changes in your stride. At times, those changes may not be something that you are really looking forward to. That is what life is all about, and this is a book which is, I would say, it's like a life lesson. So Who Moved My Cheese, if somebody wants to see, most of us tend to be very, very rigid in our ways. I am a very rigid person. I tend to be very set in my ways. I want things like this, I will do like this, I like this, but it doesn't work like that. So to be able to adapt to, so this book is an excellent book for people who are like me, very, very rigid and set in their ways. Who Moved My Cheese is something that they can pick up a lot from. And another set of quotes that I always love to read are Warren Buffett's quotes. Now, he's an American investor and a philanthropist and a CEO of a big investing company. And his quotes are more like, uh, I think they are management B-school lessons they can be. So you can Google and you would find Warren Buffett's quotes all over, and really very, very insightful.
Absolutely.
Another author is, I think this will go on and on. But apart from books, I think life lessons are the most, because you may read a book and you may forget, but what life teaches you is something that remains with you always. So learn from what life is trying to teach you,
Right.
and move on.
Absolutely. Like I'll just share one incident. It was again during the pharmacognosy practicals. That time, Sandhya ma'am had accompanied you for
The exam.
Yes. And if I were to read that particular tagline, or if I were to read that particular quote in a book, I would have probably forgotten it. But just because I was running late with my extraction of the solvent for the drug, Sandhya ma'am came up to me and she said that she had asked me once in just a interaction that what you wish to do, and I told her I want to do pharmaceutical event management. And after that, I'm running late, and I'm gonna submit it a little later than other students would have. She said, if you want to do event management, first learn time management.
Yes, very true.
And,
Because, like for example, when I'm involved with the professional associations, I'm teaching, I'm doing my research, I'm doing pharma time, I'm doing so many other things. If you're not able to manage your time well, you will not be able to. Always remember, work expands into the time that you have. So you have nothing to do, you will still end up spending the day, and you have so much to do, you will still end up having a very productive day. So the time management is something that yes, you're right. That's something that some of us are born with it maybe, and some of us learn it, and some of us need to learn it.
absolutely, because if I were to read it in a book, I would have probably forgotten it. But as
Yes.
you said, learning from life lessons, that happened in front of me. So yes, ma'am. Ma'am, one last question from my end, and then we'll invite the students to ask a few questions, if that's fine. Any general message for the students? You have been giving messages to students for over the last 25 years now. Uh, Anything you would like to share here?
So there is something that I always tell my students, always tell them, and that is the reason why I tell them is today. If I look at the students and I look at the generation today, they're in a hurry. They're in a hurry to get everything, to achieve, to get success, to be successful, to achieve all the good things of life. And when things don't work out, the level of disappointment that I have seen with students is something that, as teachers and as uh, as their caregivers and caretakers, I may say so, it pains us and it hurts us. So when you see your students getting so disappointed, and the generation today is, I tell my daughter also the same thing. She's working now. She's completed her BE, but they are in so much of a hurry that I don't understand कि ये कहाँ से आ रहा है, ये तुम्हें इतनी क्या जल्दी है, मिल जाएगा, सब हो जाएगा. So एक है quote है जो मैंने एक बार I heard Amitabh Bachchan in some interview somewhere, and he quoted his father Harivansh Rai Bachchan, who is a very renowned Hindi poet. And this is something that I remind myself also when I am low and feeling down. He said one thing when he said बाबूजी ने कहा था कि मन का हो तो अच्छा, मन का ना हो तो और भी अच्छा. So what it means is, if you've not good in Hindi, if I'll just explain it to you, none of us are, we very decided, I want this, ऐसा होना चाहिए. We pray every day, our prayers are, God give me this, give me that, let this happen for me, let this work out for me. So if things happen the way you want them to happen, good. If they do not happen the way you want them to happen, better. Because he has plans which you in your limited wisdom cannot understand. Right now, today, you are looking at your own limited thing that आज मुझे ये चाहिए. But in the long run, maybe there's something better that is planned out for you, and he's just trying to nudge you into the right direction. And by saying this, I'm not trying to be fatalistic and saying that, जो है fate में लिखा हुआ वही. No, you have to work hard for it. But eventually, when it comes to whether things work out or don't work out, be so मन का हो तो अच्छा. There is another thing which no, I'm a huge SRK fan. Okay, so maybe youngsters didn't understand, but he's like super stylish, and I'm totally in love with him. So his movie Om Shanti Om, I his earlier movies I never used to miss. Now I do not watch, but so there was a dialogue which he's drunk and he says something that अगर पूरी शिद्दत से कुछ चाहो तो सारी कायनात something like that. So it means if you want something with all the passion, the entire universe conspires to get it.
Right.
Contradictory. So what I'm trying to say is, if you want something, go all out with all your passion and drive to get it, and the universe will work with you to help you get it. But despite all of that, if it doesn't happen the way you want it to happen, something better is planned for you. If this is what you remember, it will be easy to take life in your stride, because life at times can be quite unfair. So, how you cope with it, how you deal with it is completely up to how well prepared you are for it. This is something that I keep telling my students, my own daughter, and every youngster I come across. Something you should remember.
Absolutely, too. Very nicely said that, ma'am. And I'm pretty sure even I'm going to remember that now. So, yes. Thank you so much, ma'am, for all the interaction, for all sharing all this information with us, and such a motivational quote as well for our students. I would now invite our students to ask you a few questions, if that's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
You, Divya, if you could please ask your first question.
Divya, if you could just quickly introduce yourself, where are you from and which year student are you? So that tells me so much better about what I have to answer.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
My name is Divya Dhavan, and I'm from VESCOP. I'm currently in third year.
Okay.
So, ma'am, as you said that students should have some skill sets, they need to develop some skill sets to be industry ready. So, what skill sets would you like to suggest that every student should have in order to be working in industry or even in academics?
Okay. The first thing that I feel that students often are missing, and according to me is the most important, whether they're missing or lacking or have it, that's another thing, is presentation skills. You may have all the knowledge with you, you may have all the ideas with you, but if you're not able to put it across in the boardroom, in front of your bosses, in front of your mentors, then it remains within you and nobody really recognizes you for what you are. So presentation skills are very, very important. Many of us are with stage fright. When I, the first time I took a class was, I was trembling literally. And that is something that you need to work on. If your presentation skills are not good, it does not mean you cannot build them. You need a lot of work, you need practice, and the best time to do it is during your undergraduate days. When you enter your work sphere, nobody is going to wait for you to build those skills. People are just going to put that tick mark, a good presenter or not a good presenter. So presentation skills are very, very important. Writing skills are very important. Apart from your technical knowledge, these are two things which I think are very, very important. Of course, apart from the your ability to work as a team, take up leadership roles. All of this comes, but according to me, the most basic, your presentation skills, your writing skills. Maybe because I'm a teacher and an editor, maybe I weigh them so much more. But yes, these are skills, and these are skills often I feel students are lacking in. So, these are the most important ones. Your thinking also, like your problem solving ability, but that you learn. But as students, these are things that should be presentation and reading writing skills.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
What do you, Divya?
Yes, ma'am. I will definitely follow this. I do have stage fright, but yes, I'll definitely follow your.
Work on it. Sit with your siblings, sit with your society people, sit with your classmates, sit with Pranav sir, and it's just a matter of time. You just need to work on yourself. It's no big deal, let me tell you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, I'm from Principal KM Kundani College and I'll be entering into third year now.
Can you just repeat your question? I missed your question.
Ma'am, I would like to ask you that what are the major functions or the role that a person from a pharmacognosy background plays at industry level? Like what are the roles to be played?
See, now when you say industry is huge. You have marketing, you have production, you have R&D, you have medical writing, you have clinical departments. So, now, gone are the days when industry was just one production line and one chota mota R&D. Now industry is huge. It completely depends on which area you are talking of. You cannot really generalize it in such a way. Industry has all of these areas. And now the cyber security would be coming in, AI would be coming, all of this would be coming in the big IoT area. You have packaging. Now today packaging is no longer like earlier packaging. You have track and trace and all of these to take care of maybe the fraudulent means, that the supply chain issues that happen. So industry cannot be, you will have to be more specific in terms of which aspect of the industry you're talking of.
Ma'am, I want to ask regarding the person from a pharmacognosy background,
Which
especially.
aspect of industry are you talking of? Industry is huge. There are so many areas.
Ma'am, then how does the industry differentiate between a person from a pharmacognosy background and from Ayurveda background?
When recruiters come to Bombay College of Pharmacy, often they come with, we want to hire students from pharmaceutical analysis, or they come with a certain this. We try to convince them that you should look at all our master's students, and they often get convinced. Instead of, because when you go to industry, the first issue with industry says is, what they say is, you need to first get our students to unlearn what they know and really make them learn what the industry wants. So anyway, if that has to be done, what the industry is looking at is a certain personality, a certain right attitude, the right aptitude is what they are looking at. So I don't think that pharmacognosy, because here at Bombay College of Pharmacy, what we try to do is, even if industry is insistent, we have been able to talk and convince them and put it across to them that restricting to masters or PhD in a particular area is not the way to go. And most of the companies that come for recruiting in our college are no longer restricting to any one discipline. So, and of course, the research projects that you take up also, what you do in your pharmacognosy phytochemistry research also, if it is more relevant, more contemporary, more based on cutting edge science, no reason why industry is not going to look at you. So students are generally asked, give an outline of a research project. So how is your research work in sync with what industry requires is also a key. So saying that because it is pharmacognosy phytochemistry and therefore there may be challenges associated with getting students recruited, I don't agree with that, because we don't face that sort of issue. When recruiters come to our college, most of them, 80–90% of them, do not restrict themselves to masters or PhD in a particular discipline.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ritu, if you would like to ask your question.
Hi, ma'am. This is.
Hi, Ritu. Ritu, just tell me, where are you from and which year student?
I am from KMK and I am currently in the middle of final year because exams have postponed.
So you say you're almost graduated.
Okay, my question is, what are your views on Patanjali, as it is also related to the Ayurvedic and pharmacognosy?
I will not comment on any industry or any brand. I will not do that. I will not comment on any industry brand. It is not correct. Because,
ma'am, do they hire us?
Excuse me. Huh?
Do they hire pharmacognosy?
They have very, very good labs. Okay, let me tell you. Bookie, I maybe you're aware of Bookie. Bookie, they have their flash. They are a group of companies with flash chromatography, with supercritical, so many other column chromatography, all of those. So when we were in discussions with Bookie for purchase of our rotary vacuum evaporator, that is when they said the Patanjali lab, I think in Dehradun, their main lab is in Dehradun or Haridwar, one of those places. They have how many flash chromatographies? हमारे यहाँ मुश्किल से एक था. So their research labs are very, very well equipped. They definitely will hire students. They need students from pharmacognosy, pharmacology, analytical profile, pharmaceutical chemistry. Job openings, definitely they are there. If you are able to get them to your institute for recruitments, definitely it will be good.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Ritu.
Ma'am, there are so many drugs in pharmacognosy. So how are you memorizing all the drugs? So what was your experience?
So many drugs in pharmacognosy, you said?
Yeah, so how are you able to memorize all the drugs?
So our teaching learning has to move from rote to learning to critical and analytical thinking. Unfortunately, with our syllabus and our examination pattern till now relied very heavily on rote learning. But now with this pandemic and everything happening online, if my quizzes and evaluation is going to rely only on rote learning, students will Google it and get it. So now is the time where what we expected of students, the critical thinking, the problem solving abilities, the application based thinking. Application based evaluation will happen now because now we are able to evaluate them. When you're doing online quizzes, you cannot possibly write biosores of Yeshti Madhu. It will not work, right? So your problem of how to memorize these names and all is sort of taken care of with this pandemic, because now that's not going to, you're going to have more of application based, you will have more of application based questions in your quiz and exams, because otherwise no point in holding the exam, right? So तुम्हारा problem थोड़ा सा take care हो गया है. These sort of questions are not going to happen at least for the next semester also. But otherwise, if it's as long as it's rote learning, then you have to. There's no choice. You'll have to get your own tips on how to remember and how to do.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
I think that was the last question, ma'am. Thank you so much for all the time and the information that you have provided. I'm pretty sure the students or anybody who's going to watch this in the future is going to learn something out of this, and at least they'll try to implement a few things in their day-to-day activities, or at least in their professional careers as well. So I'm pretty sure it will help a lot of people around.
I hope, Pranav, it turns out useful in some which way. Having said this, I would really thank you first for calling me here. My apologies for how many times. The intention was always there, it just did not happen. So poor time management skills on my part, but it somehow did not happen. I'm glad I was able to be here, to interact with you, interact with all these students, and thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for watching the Leadership Lab. If you have any questions for our speakers or any suggestions for us, you can email to us on pharmacad.mumbai@gmail.com, and the title of the email should be the Leadership Lab. And we shall try to send your questions to the speakers and get the answers at the earliest. Thank you so much for supporting. Keep watching. Take care.